Oh, you didn't see that. What are you doing out there? Well, it's R2 and Little Chew and me. And we're doing some YouTube today. It's been a minute since I've done anything. I think I did a couple weeks ago, but still, I should do at least 1 or 2 videos a week. But what's this droid getting in the way of? What could it possibly be? Could it be another episode of Six Figures? Go figure, huh? I gotta thank the old clearance racks. Sorry, R2, I had to get you out the way. You can still see a little tiny bit of him if I pull him forward, but I'm gonna get him out of the way for a minute. It's not about you, R2. It's not all about you, R2. It's about some figures today. So, I ran into some clearance items. I'll grab one of them that's not actually in the lineup. There's an extra one. It's an Obi-Wan from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and I really don't remember this one hitting the market. Nor did I remember the 501st Stormtrooper hitting the market, but I found them both on clearance rack, and you'll learn more about that later. But there was that batch from the clearance rack that had Obi-Wan and a handful of 501st Stormtroopers. But then I went into a Walmart down at, I think, Bay City, Michigan, and by golly, did they not have the most recent wave hanging on the shelf. And I didn't pay full price for them either. They were marked down. So, you get there the right day, sometimes you get lucky. That's just the way it is. Plus, for some reason, I don't think action figures are very popular like they were just a handful of years ago. Well, they are and they aren't, but for some reason in Michigan, there's fewer collectors than there were. There's still a few out there, but I mean, there's not as many collectors as there were maybe 10, 15 years ago when, gosh, I think 2009 was when I officially quit collecting. Before I started back up again, I think 2022, kind of, in the beginning of 2022 somewhere, I started collecting again. But anyway, then I started opening some up on YouTube and come up with this whole idea of, well, 6 figures at a time, that's 6 figures. 6 figures is a nice coin little phrase to have. So, that helps me get a few hits here and there. But, by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't always sit here and ramble. A lot of times I've got interesting things to talk about, like, R2 and Little Chew. Sometimes I talk in Wookiee for a minute. There's one video where I do nothing but talk Wookiee. But you'll have to look for that one. It's there. But you should probably like and subscribe. Don't forget to look at videos. Some of them are long. Most of them are too long. And I ramble a lot. But you should comment on my rambling at the least. And there is a freaking wasp up here. And I need to kill that sumbitch. He's on R2's head. Here, I'm going to hit you in the head, R2. There. Wow. Here, I'm going to pop that on this little plate and show you what I just killed. That little son of a bitch just about tried to take R2 out. He landed on R2. Now, in the past, I've been sitting here doing projects, and the damn things have fallen from the ceiling and landed right on the back of my neck, and before I know it, I'm getting stung. Yeah, it happens out here. And you know when it happens? It happens in the middle of the frickin' winter. They start bouncing around in here, and then they find a place to hibernate, and they fall asleep. And then I kick the heater on. A couple hours later, they wake up, fall down, sting the shit out of me. Anyway, that was unexpected, but it was kind of cool to catch that on camera. Let's talk about what I'm going to open up today. You saw the Obi-Wan up close. I'll show you that again. Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this is the Jedi Legend. So yeah, he's kind of all decked out in Jedi gear. So that's one we're going to open. We also got Jedi Survivor. Rocket launcher trooper. I can't read it backwards. Rocket launcher trooper. That's what we got right there. So anyway, that's our number 2. And where's our number 3? Another Jedi Survivor. Night Sister Merrin. Check Night Sister Merrin out. She's pretty cool looking. There, I get where the reflection's not destroying her appearance there. She's got an extra hand, it looks like. And nice little dagger. Some green gooey stuff. So, I don't know much about this character, but it's from a video game. As is the rocket launcher trooper. And let's see, we're getting into Book of Boba Fett with Cobb Vanth. Now he no longer has his Mandalorian armor, because he had Boba Fett's armor for a minute. But there he is. I think he's got like a regular kind of rebel type blaster, like a Return of the Jedi Hoth kind of blaster. And this little gunslinger pistol down here. That's very cool. And so that's number 4. Number 5. I can't believe I'm opening him before I open the other one. Although I opened Hunter already. And I opened him and a Bo-Katan because I was calling Hunter Bro-Katan. I don't know if you saw that one or not, but I thought it was funny. We got Crosshair. So, Crosshair is out, and there's at least one more. I think is it Tech that's out? I can't remember. But anyway, Crosshair. And last but not least, this is from The Mandalorian, Season 3. That's about Moff Gideon. Trying to be Mr. Grand Moff Gideon. And all he's got is a pistol now. And whatever that thing is, he's got some kind of a weird post. And some weird, I don't know what that is. Oh, yeah, it's some electronic stuff. We'll get a look at all that. But I want to open one of these, and I want to get started, because here we are 8 minutes in, and like usual, I'm wasting time. So, I'm going to use one of my cheat codes. I take the knife out of my utility blade. Got one of these nice channel lock ones. This is very high quality. I recommend getting a high quality one. Don't buy the cheap ones. You'll cut yourself. Trust me. I've done it. Buy the good ones. Don't buy shit tools. Anyway, I took the blade out. It's a fresh blade. I need something somewhat sharp to make sure I can cut through this without totally destroying the packaging. And I'll try to get that clearance sticker off of there so I have at least the card back without the clearance price on there. But when I do this, I can't always do it on camera because it's hard to see it. But I just get in here with a razor blade, and if you can see what I'm doing, I'll do it somewhat on camera. But I get in here and I try to get just under the plastic part of that. Doesn't always work. Like this one's not wanting to. But I try to separate it, and it's still not wanting to. See, it's hard to do that on camera and get it right without making that mistake. Thing is I want to get under this plastic part and skin it off of there without destroying the edges of the packaging. You know, kind of. I'm doing the best I can to not destroy the edges of the packaging. This is not doing me much good. I'm going to get a brand new blade. Maybe that'll help out. There. And that one cut right through the plastic. So this is when I go, God fucking damn it. Pissing me off. Alright. Some of these are easier to get apart than others. Some of them, if they've been sitting for a while, the adhesive starts to break down and it just about comes off completely. But then you get fucking Obi-Wan that doesn't want to, you know, doesn't want to come out of his packaging for whatever reason. See, that's what I was trying to avoid, is hacking that up. So luckily I got a second card to try and do this with. So, as you know, I always take all this out. Fuck this little booklet. I don't want to read it. I can't read it. My eyes are not going to allow it. Saber. We'll take a look at that really quick. Can you see that? Focus. Camera. It does not want to focus in on that. Sometimes it will. Sometimes it won't. Huh. Yeah, you can kind of see it. But it's very difficult to get that to show up. We'll try it again with this tiny saber that goes on his belt. What I think I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and take the desert goggles out and put those right on his head, or at least around his neck. And now all I have is the action figure. There. I'm going to go ahead and put the goggles on first. Well, maybe we'll just put the goggles. Let's put the goggles in his left hand. We're going to put the lightsaber, I think it goes on his belt. There it is, right here. You'll see this in just a moment. Fuck. There. There. And then with this hand, we'll just kind of hold the lightsaber. So he's got one on his belt and one in his hand. That's because I don't want to lose the lightsaber. I want to display the entire piece. Just long enough to get it on camera without breaking the toy. Okay, come on, let's do this without breaking. There. There we go. That's better. All right. Now I'm going to bring him up to camera so you can see. Look at that. He's got a good grip on his goggles. He's got that hilt right there. Now you can get a good picture of that hilt, I think. Maybe it'll focus. But we can get a look at this here. And there he is. Hey, look, maybe where the... Yeah. There we go. If I put him in front of me, there we go. It focuses much better. Okay. So anyway, there's Obi-Wan. We're going to go ahead and stick Obi-Wan up here. I'll get him standing. There it is. Yeah, okay, so there's one figure. All right, he's behind all of these. And we'll just lay these guys down like that. Oh, he fell down over already. See, that's the one thing I can't stand. When I'm trying to do this fresh opening stuff, it sometimes is relentless because these action figures, they don't always want to stand up. And they're all just a little bit different. I've got 3 Fennec Shans. And although they're all 3 are very difficult to pose for whatever reason. There we go. He needs to be touching part of the shelf in order to not fall down. Sometimes that's what happens with these action figures, especially when you don't have little stands. I don't have any stands for their feet right now. I have some in the house, but that's a different story for another time. So we'll get rid of these. I don't keep it. Throw that away. All right, let's get this Jedi Survivor Stormtrooper out here. The Rocket Launcher Trooper. For the most part, he's kind of an average stormtrooper. You just look at him up in the package first. I mean, he's just pretty much like the stormtrooper they just released. Because it's like, you know, a standard stormtrooper. But he does have the side cauldron. This little decor right there. And then, of course, he's got a different weapon than the E11 blaster. So this guy means business. If this guy comes out, he's going to fry some rebels. He's just going to. He'll probably get shot and killed himself, because that usually happens. He's a stormtrooper. They're pretty much expendable. But I got to imagine, with a big gun like that, the potential for him to destroy some people, pretty high. There we go. This one's opening fairly decent, but it has a lot to do with using his brand new blade. There it is. All right. That's kind of more what I want to see. It's okay to have that tear away. That doesn't bother me. That looks like, a carefully opened card. And I'm okay with that blemish if I can have a nice flat copy of the card. I do like having the card backs. Again, these booklets, I don't care. All right, so this one has a red cauldron instead of an orange cauldron. So I'm gonna get this weapon up in his hand, and we'll get him up to the camera so you can see him better. All righty, let's get this hand. Oh, I see. We've got this all wrong. Okay. So he has what appears to be some strange points of articulation, because the pistol grip for this weapon is kind of in a strange place. Okay. There's that. I'm not going to have him hold that up like that, because I think he's too difficult to pose with that big gigantic weapon. I'm just going to I'm going to pose him a different way with not sure how I'm going to do this. It doesn't appear to have a very it's one of the things I don't like about action figures. They're not sometimes thought out correctly. Like, the weapon has to be able to fit in the action figure, so the action figure can pose with it. Okay, there we go. I think I got it better now. All right, so there we go. That was very difficult to get. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle this. I'm not really in love with that, because yeah, I can't really get him to pose with this like it shows on the card. And yeah, he's not holding on to anything I'm trying to get his hands on. So yeah, I kind of don't like this action figure. I mean, it's a cool looking figure, but I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this problem with the rifle. That's a fail. In my book, that is an immediate fail for the action figure, because there's something wrong about the way he grips this. It should be easier to pose than that. I mean, I want to bring up a point, and I understand the points of articulation is kind of a point of contention, because the more points of articulation you have on an action figure, the more difficult it is going to be to pose it. I understand that. I totally get that. But I mean, that it is the fact. But sometimes even the simple non-articulated, 5 points of articulation or less, sometimes those are just as difficult, if not more, because you can't bend the ankle and manipulate the leg in any way to balance its weight around. And if it's a tippy figure, it's just going to be tippy. I have some of the yellow droid from Obi-Wan. It was the retro line. I can't remember the droid's name. Anyway, it's yellow. It's got one blue arm. I got a whole bunch of those when those were on clearance. And I have one in particular that has one foot standing on top of a coin and the other foot on the shelf. And that's the only way that figure will stand. It has to have a coin to balance it, because for some reason, one leg is just shorter than the rest. It's just a weird thing. Just the way something in the shape of that leg is weird on that one figure. But that happens. But on these multi-articulate ones, if you screw with them long enough, you'll get the foot in a position that will allow it to stand, until you try to stand it somewhere else, and then that's another story. So, you know what we didn't do this time? We didn't do ladies first. So I'm going to hold her off to the very end. I'm going to move right up to... We're going to get out of the Jedi Survivor and go right over to the Book of Boba Fett. Let's get Cobb Vanth out of his package. Let's get a good look at him. think we looked at him a minute ago. That's pretty cool, though. Oh, yeah, because we looked at all of them. We kind of looked at a quick look at all of them when we started this video. So I'm going to go ahead and do the razor blade thing here and try not to cut myself apart. I haven't cut myself on camera doing this yet. It's one of the reasons I'm not going out of my way to get a perfect shot doing this. Because I know that eventually, instead of doing it with an iPhone, I'm going to set up a laptop when I can afford to get a better one. Something that has a camera on the front of it. And I'm going to install YouTube Studio and some more animation software that I can do some intro stuff with and get a little more technical with the channel somewhere down the line. But right now, I don't have the software to do it that way, so I'm just doing it with an iPhone. But when I get to that point, I will rig up a camera for overhead. So I'll be able to take a picture like I'm getting right now, but then I'll also be able to, in this area where my finger is, I'll be able to do something like show that camera view up here in the corner. And then maybe have, you know, some text going across the bottom. And, of course, some music. So we're going to take Cobb Vanth's card and plop it in the pile. I don't like this that they're doing with the card backs now. I much prefer the picture of the figures that are released in this line. Because when I'm in the store and I see this new figure that I haven't seen before, it's really helpful for me to flip that over and see the 6 to 8 figures that are pictured across the top of the back. I liked that better because I was able to see the other figures that were released in that wave. Does that make any sense to you? Because, like, yeah, we're into, yeah, the VC numbers. Like, this is number 371. So there's, like, so far been 371 figures released. You know, that's what that means, basically. In the vintage collection line. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull these weapons out of here first. We're going to pull Cobb Vanth out of here. We can get rid of this little piece of plastic. There's no more things attached to it. And if we got a holster to put the pistol in, we holster the pistol. That allows us to put the rifle in a trigger position. Nice. And maybe this is why Rebels always seem to have a better shot. Because they can sure grip their weapons a lot better than the Stormtroopers do. The Stormtroopers are a pain in the ass. All of them. Every last one of them. All right. There. That allows me to put this gunslinger in a more appropriate position. There we go. That's better. Well, he looks like he means business. We'll look at that. Look at that holster, pistol, or holstered pistol. So this is a very cool looking figure. I like it. Standing, I think I need to turn this leg, that leg a little bit. Huh. There we go. Almost got it. There we go. Huh. He's over there standing next to Obi-Wan now. Okay, that works. All right, that's 3 figures. This 6-figure video, 30 minutes already. Wow. All right, I'm going to get quick on this. I'm going to put the bucket right there. Yeah, you can see the buckets there. I just opened there. And here, you see the card backs right there. Can you see them? Kind of. There you go. All right. You don't really need to see the card backs, but at least there's something to look at besides me disrespecting the packaging. Disrespecting the packaging. Yes, that's what we're doing. Well, we're trying to have as much respect as we possibly can. That's why I'm using the razor blade, trying to get a nice clean cut on here. There we go. Collecting the card backs was one of the things I used to do as a kid, collecting the original Star Wars figures back in the 1970s and 80s. We would always open our figures like this and try to keep the package nice and straight, because we would have a stack of these, and then because in the very beginning, one of the first things they did was they put the figures out, and they all had a proof of purchase on the package, and they ran a mail away thing. The first thing that was besides the original mail away thing, which was the I don't know, whatever the kit was, the early bird kit, the early bird starter kit. They did a stand for the original 12 figures, and you pulled a lever and the figures would turn. So they did that, and then they re-released that same thing for the Glamour Gals using the same stand. You didn't know that, did you? My sister had it. She had the Glamour Gal one, and you put the names of the Glamour Gals you had on it, because my sister had it. Because I had my Star Wars ones on the Star Wars one, and anyway, that's a long story. But they had some mail-away stuff, and that was even before the Boba Fett. So we, right away, we're like, we don't throw the box away. At the least, we keep the proof of purchase that they used to have down in the corner of the card. It's not on these. It's not at all the same. But anyway, we would keep the card backs for that, and then have the proof of purchase. So we got him out of there. There's Crosshair. Let's see what he looks like. Again, I don't worry about those. We got a pistol for Crosshair. So we're going to sit that down. It's too small to show in the camera, so I'm not even going to bother. Another 5 minutes of me trying to get the camera to focus on something it's not going to focus. I'm not going to swap the head. I was able to get 2 Hunters when I bought him, but Hunter was on clearance, so it's a lot easier to buy 2 of them. This one was not full price, but it wasn't on clearance, so I only allowed myself the purchase of 1 of each. With the exception of the Jetpack Trooper, I did buy 2 of that one. But yeah, I'm kind of regretting that, because even though he's cool with the red cauldron, he's pretty much useless with that weapon, because I can't get it into a firing position that looks good. So I'll probably rig those weapons up doing something else. I don't know. So, I think it looks good. So what I'm going to try to do is what I always do with these figures that have a helmet. I'm going to try to get them to grip part of that helmet so that they can hold it. Or at least appear to be holding it. There we go. And then I can show you the figure. I just have to get the backpack out of the packaging, so you can see a good shot of his helmet and the pistol in the holster there. And a good look at his firearm here. And you can see the whole thing. There you go. Now you can see some detail in it. Look at that. That is a pretty cool looking firearm. I'll sit him down for a moment. We're going to get this little backpack out of here. Pop this out of there. And it appears that on the backpack figures, they're using kind of a uniform thing. So, like the Jetpack Trooper and the Mandalorian with the jetpack, some of these backpacks should be kind of hot swappable in that regard. I just had a helmet fall on the floor, and now I don't see it, so I have to go down here and look for it. Oh, one of the most irritating things. Action figures with teeny tiny small parts falling on the floor. It is one of the most annoying things that will happen when you play with action figures. These things don't behave. But I am going to say this. Let's be honest. It says 4+. That means ages 4 and up, okay? So it's intended for children. It's a toy. Sold in the toy aisle. However, we all know that it is considered a collectible. But it's still a toy. Although it's a collectible. I totally appreciate the amount of articulation and detail that exist in these figures. And these vintage collection figures are they're like a huge upgrade. They took Star Wars and they made it kind of like G.I. Joe. But in the process of making it like G.I. Joe, they improved the quality of the plastic. Like G.I. Joe's, you used to try to put a gun in its hand and you would break the fingers. So then they would never hold a gun. They sucked. G.I. Joe's were terrible. We fucking threw them away. They were so terrible. We ended up shooting BBs at ours because we hated them so much. Because they were terrible. None of them could hold a gun. Not a single one of them. Because the thumbs would break off. My sister had Lady Jane. And she had to buy her several times. Okay. She'd have to buy her several times because Lady Jane, she'd put the gun in the hand, the crossbow she had, snap the thumb off. Every time. And that, it's just the way those figures were. But Hasbro got Star Wars, and they've been playing around, going back and forth in their designs. And they got this vintage collection where, it is just absolutely beautiful, the amount of detail that you can get in these action figures. And I absolutely love that about there. That's what has me so obsessed with them. Although my ability to see the amount of detail that's on these is somewhat diminished from what it was 15, 20 years ago. When I first started collecting in the mid-90s as an adult collector. When they started re-releasing the Star Wars figures in the Power of the Force 2. And those were amazing figures for the time. But then they got a little bit better and a little bit better. And then eventually what happened is they started re-releasing everything. And then they'd re-release it again. And then they'd re-release it again. Because it was like Saga Collection. And then before Saga Collection, there was a packaging layout that would everything looked the same. There wasn't any of the movie specific stuff going on. And it was kind of weird. If I was going to buy an action figure, I think they kind of should have gone with this concept, like the old school, kind of a long time ago. And at this point, it was a long time ago. But one of the reasons I stopped collecting is I had to put the brakes on. Because I had dedicated myself to collecting a bunch of this stuff. And the line kept changing. So I'm like, well, I got Prune Face. What am I going to have to do? Buy him again? Oh, this one looks way cooler than the other one. Well, I guess I better buy him again. But then it would happen again. And then there would yet be another, even better, more impressive version of that same figure. And I just reached a point where I had to put the brakes on and I wasn't collecting everything. And then I ran into a situation where I was no longer going to have the display space to be able to enjoy the collection. And at that point, that's when collecting stopped for me, because it was like the part of the fun is putting these things on a shelf and displaying them and showing them off so people can see all that detail. But yeah, and I think the gun goes in the slot of that backpack. But I like the fact that he's holding it, so I'm just going to go ahead and put him up here by the Stormtrooper for now. Oh, and I think, yeah, I can put him right there. He needs to lean over a little. Alrighty. Let's go for Moff Gideon. Usually I do ladies first. I wasn't really paying attention when I started this. I'll give you the quick close-up on him again. He's a Mando boring person. Mando boring man. Let's be honest. Moff Gideon is quite possibly the driest, least developed character in Star Wars. He's been the same character since the very moment he hit screen in season 1. And they just needed somebody that would be the Mandalorian's arch nemesis. But, oh yeah, evidently he was there for the Night of 1,000 Tears or whatever. He was responsible for destroying Mandalore. I didn't buy into it the same. Kind of found the character sort of annoying. So yeah, I was never really super intimidated by Moff Gideon, because I knew that he was gonna lose. I already knew he was gonna lose. He's the bad guy. In Star Wars, the bad guy always gets his ass kicked. Alrighty, so I'll humor you for a second to show you this pistol. It's so tiny. See, it's really hard to get anything to focus on that, but it's so tiny that, I mean, I'd almost rather drop a tiny spot of glue on it and just glue it permanently into the holster, just so that it doesn't fall out and disappear. Because there's so many of these, my Mandalorians are all missing a pistol or two of my, because it's so hard to keep from losing those pieces. It's just a thing, you know. It falls on the floor, rolls a little too far. You're never seeing that again. My Obi-Wan Kenobi figures. Obi-Wan Kenobi came with the little droid, the little Lola droid that Leia had. Not a single one of my Lola droids has survived. They have all fallen off the shelf, busted into a million pieces, and disappeared. Like right in front of my eyes. Never to be seen again. Missing wings, missing feet, all the little pieces. Oh, man. Yeah. I have to buy that Obi-Wan figure at least one more time at some point, just to make an attempt at having that little Lola action figure. And I need to have my glasses on and a microscope and a giant looking glass, and, you know, just to handle that piece, because I don't want to lose it. The next time I get it, I want to make sure I can keep it from disappearing. Like, I'm sure this little pink electroid tip on the end of this thing, I'm sure it's going to last forever. I'm sure it's no way. It won't fall off the shelf and roll under the bed and disappear forever like Lola did. And I'm being facetious, because I'm telling you, before I even get this into the shelving unit, up there with the rest of the Mandalorians or wherever I decide to put him, I'm just telling you right now, there's no way that that'll happen without losing that. Somewhere along the line, it's going to fall on the floor. And that's usually when shit goes wrong. All right. So he does look pretty cool. He's a little stiff. But, yeah, he looks very Mandalorian. So we'll sit him over here next to Crosshair. All right, there. All right. Last but not least, this lady is last in line, because we saved the best for last. She's a cutie. She's tooty, she's fruity, and definitely a cutie. I'm going to open this. I just heard the car pull in. That means my dinner is here. And I can take a break and go eat some chicken wings. I can plug the phone in and upload this video. Ugh. Boy, I tell you what, I do hope I get a chance to buy some more of these, because I would really like to get on clearance. I would really like to get a couple more Night Sister Merrins, because I think that I think I could do some justice swapping some heads around and maybe doing some paint apps and making you know, like I could repaint that head and make it more flesh colored and put that head on, say, like a Slave Leia, and then paint the Slave Leia a little bit different than the gold and maroon and change it up a little bit. And then I could make, you know, a multitude of different characters for the Jabba's Palace scene, because that's kind of what I'm working on. Was one of my shelves is dedicated to those characters. But I do intend on kit bashing some Slave Leias at one point. Even though it's getting harder to collect her, even loose. She's not cheap. I've gotten mine at good prices, and I don't know how I got mine as cheap as I did. I got lucky when I got them. All right. So, dagger was back here in the dagger holster. All right. We're just going to take a quick look at her little hand. Okay. I am, it's a right hand. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore that piece. I got her dagger put away, and I'm going to give her this spear. And she is. I think what I want to do is turn Obi-Wan. There we go. I'm going to get her up in the camera again. There she is. Very cool looking character. I could see some paint apps to that outfit and maybe putting a Harrison Dula head on there, making this into a Twi'lek, or maybe kit bashing in one of the Ola figures and swapping some stuff around. But yeah, I mean, eventually on this channel, I'm going to do some more kit bashing where I do tear into some figures and do some alterations. But I've mostly been concentrating on the collecting and the Six Figures episodes on the channel. And then there's a bunch of video on the channel of me just tearing through things and making things out of things. So there we go. That was Six Figures. And coming up next, from the clearance rack. That was right, $6 a piece. There were exactly 6 of them on the clearance rack. And there were 6 Obi-Wans. I bought 2 of the 6 Obi-Wans so that I can have one. You know, this one's in pretty good package. If I was a carded collector, I'd be giddy right now because I'd be able to keep this one carded, you know, and I could. But honestly, who has the space to display the amount of carded figures that actually exist? If you collected carded all the way back into the 90s, you did the 90s into the 2000s. By 2005, that was 10 years since the new beginning of it. And quite a bit of evolution happened. By Revenge of the Sith, we had arms doing this kind of stuff and bending elbows and wrists twisting. It's like my Commander Cody and a lot of those era action figures from Revenge of the Sith were very articulated figures. So we've been going on quite a long time, a good 20 years of high articulation in the 3 3/4 range. Granted, at that point in time, 20 years ago, they were still trying to sell the 12-inch line. They just weren't letting go of it. But eventually, someone like Sideshow Collectibles came along, and they were like, look, we can do it, and we can do it way better. And then Hasbro was like, you do it then. So that's what happened to the 12-inch line, which I kind of miss because I kind of liked the 12-inch figures, but I'm also glad they quit making them because I already knew I wasn't going to get the sideshows, because no way. At that price range, no. Okay, I like Star Wars, but I didn't have that kind of Star Wars money. I get lucky. I get stuff on the clearance rack, like those guys, you know, and these guys, at least marked down. So I want to get a good thumbnail. So I'm gonna put everybody. Right, yeah, there we go. There, I got them set up where I can take a thumbnail, and then maybe later tonight I'll do the 501st figures. That's coming up next. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me. I know I ramble a lot. I did it all for the Wookiee.